Hi everyone. So I've built this bike up on the channel before and I've been riding it pretty much the same ever since. Actually the white handlebar tape is still the same and it hasn't really dirtied up too much, which is pretty surprising. But the one thing that I'm not 100% with is the handlebars. They are quite a nice comfortable shape, but they're not quite perfect. So they're the Valor Orange Grand Cru handlebar. They have like a little bit of upsweep. They have a really nice curve in the drops. But for me, on this bike with this riding position, they're not quite perfect, so I'll be changing them out today. I'm using a Nitto dirt drop stem with them. It gets the bars up nice and high, so they're pretty much level with the seat. So I'll be changing the shifters to bar end shifters, but I'll be keeping these brake levers. I really like them. They're Shimano BL R600. I really like the shifters as well, but it works out better to change them on the new bar that I've got. So you can see the position, like the reach and everything is really nice on them, but my arm actually contacts the top of the handlebar, so I don't really feel entirely comfortable on them. And they're not too wide as well. I think these are the 46cm version. As you can see, they're just a little bit wider than my shoulders, where I'm used to really wide handlebars, especially on mountain bikes and stuff. So I've had a couple of drop bars that are around 60cm width in the ends, but I've picked some up. These are RideFarr Supa-Wide gravel bar. It's the V2 version, and they come in three widths: 650mm, 700mm, and 750mm. So naturally curious, I got the 750mm ones, and this works out to be about 56cm at the hoods, but the drops are sort of the main position. The hoods actually end up being at a nice position as well. So you do have two positions that are quite wide, and then you can also use your hands on the top of the bar as well. So I'll leave the link in the description so you can check them out for yourself. They have a nice 20-degree flare and then quite a short 120mm drop. So I'll be using them with bar end shifters. Because the drop is quite short, it works out really well, so you can just shift your hand back a little bit. This also extends the drop portion a bit as well, so it's good for like bigger hands. And to get the bars up nice and high, I'm using a Valor Orange Signy stem. So this raises the bars a good 15-16 centimeters, and because it's a threaded headset, I need to use a coil converter. I had this stem and adapter set up on a Trek before. That was actually in the last video, but I'm changing it over onto this bike now. So I don't really have any concerns with using a coil converter and the Signy stem. This bike wasn't really used for like big gap jumps or huge tabletops and stair drops and stuff anyway, so it's more of like a cruising, gravel and a bit of single track bike. So as long as the clamp portion on the coil converter is long enough, I think the target is about 55mm to use the Signy stem properly. This one is a little bit less than that, but it still reaches past the slot that's in the Signy stem, so it should be quite safe. So to cover up the coil converter, I use a bell, normally anyway, but this time I went for just a spacer. It just looked a little bit cleaner, and the bell that I wanted to use didn't quite fit. So this is just a brass spacer, and then it centered itself quite nicely. And the outside diameter actually fit the Signy stem really well. Looks quite nice on there. So it can take a few tries to get the brake levers in position. I normally do like a couple of test rides before I fully wrap the bars, but I try and get them sort of in a good happy medium so they can be used on the hoods pretty comfortably and then still have decent access when in the drops. So I'll be using a nice Odyssey linear slit cable. So these are otherwise known as compressionless cables. So it really minimizes the compression that you feel through the lever when you're braking hard. Yep, got to make sure that you grease up the bar end wedges. Really don't want those to get stuck. So I do these up quite loosely and then sort of feel it out and rotate them from here. And then to get the brake levers at an even height, I just use a cable tie and measure it from the bottom of the bar. Sometimes I measure from the top as well, like you can put a straight edge sort of back behind the brake lever and look at them from the top, and then use that straight edge to just make a straight line that runs parallel to the bar itself. Then running the cables, I make sure that I have like a little bit of excess, just in case I need to move the brake lever up or down. Knowing full well that I'll probably have to move this tape to actually move the cable, because it holds it in there pretty well. So using bar end shifters, you need to evacuate the cable out from the bar tape sort of after a few wraps. But I thought this time I would try it a little bit differently. So on the left side, I've got it set up not traditionally, and then on the right side, it's sort of how I would normally route it. So on the left side here, I decided to keep the gear cable going up the bar a little bit more. It doesn't really seem to affect the gear cable pull that much, but it keeps the gear cable a little bit further away from my hand, just so I can't grab it as easily. So I'll put some kind of like bump here, just to sort of like form it to my hand. But for now, this is just like a temporary wrap, so things will be changed in the final version. But yeah, I'd recommend doing like a double wrap, or using like something underneath the handlebar tape just to sort of dampen things a little bit. It helps cushion things. So it's pretty hard to show the perspective of just how wide these bars are. You can sort of tell from above the bike and directly in front, but in person these look so much wider. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's amazing that companies are putting out these really wide drop bars. The mountain bike community has had wide bars for quite a few years now, and drop bars are finally taking this form. Quite a few people will think this is excessive, but not for me. I really like how wide they are. The main reason to have extra wide drop bars, it's mainly for stability off-road, but it also helps if you have like a front handlebar bag. It gives that extra clearance for them. So I think a combination of me being quite tall, I'm about 6'4", and just being so much more used to having wide handlebars on other bikes, I think it just makes sense, and that sort of contributes to why this feels so much more comfortable for me. It certainly handles better with wider handlebars. I'm sure there are a couple of spots where it would be nice to have narrower handlebars, like squeezing between some trees or going through traffic or something like that. But wide handlebars don't really draw me back on my other bikes, so I don't think that's going to cause me any issues on this one.
Okay. Look at Uncle. Oh, wow! Look!
I didn't really think of this at the time, but when I was on the ride with family, I went around this really tight corner, and then I thought, I'm going to film this because this is a really nice little bonus. So when doing really tight turns, bar end shifters can sort of bump your knees, but because these bars are so wide, they have like the extra clearance. It's so good. Then I splashed through some puddles and stuff. I just love puddles. Puddles are fun. And then just some random kids splash through the puddle that I made. It's so tempting, but
That's so
the dragonflies, and I know I'll get stuck.
Imagine if there was a person near that.
So off-road, they obviously really help quite a bit. I did like some side hill action and stuff, and yeah, they're just so much more comfortable, natural, and just confidence inspiring. So I've done a couple of rides on them so far, and I rate them really highly. I haven't fully wrapped them yet, so I've still got like the odd gear cable situation. But I'll leave the link in the description for anyone that wants to check them out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. I do have a couple of videos coming up of like proper builds. So I've got a Diamondback Ascent that's going to be like a single speed bike. And I've got my Bridgestone, so the Bridgestone MB5 that was on a previous video. I'm building that up for myself. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Oh, Jesus Christ!